that we are moving into is related to follow through. Government must bring violence in check, then show it is listening to anxiety stoked by Agnipath. There can be no justification for protest against the new Agnipath recruitment process, veering as they have done in several states. Local administrations and police forces to work towards the return of the calm. The announcement that age limit will be relaxed from 22 to 23 years as one-time exception for the first batch of recruits is welcome. It is a task of political communication now to ensure that the message reaches the youth who are taking to streets. The protest against Agnipath frame the unemployment crisis that has been deepening in the country. Aftermath crisis carries a cautionary note. Over the last 2 years, so far young men have joined the armed forces not only for the respect they gain in the eyes of society but also for the sense of the security that comes with the lifelong pensions and other benefits. The absence of a pension in the new scheme and the capping of the service of Agniveers for at 4 years have clearly not gone down well. The upper age limit of 21 years in effect cut out lakhs of aspirants who have waited since 2020 for 2-year freeze on the recruitment to be lifted, which the Chief Minister of BJP-led states Haryana, Madhya Pradesh declared that ex-Agniveer would be given preference for recruits in the police and other government departments have underlined the impression of policy announced. Who felt anxious and insecure in the face of change. The Army Chief has announced the Agnipath scheme will be notified next week, setting the stage for recruitment to begin, but it is still not too late for the government to take on board suggestions that are coming in from military community. For instance, raising the length of the service of the Agniveers to at least 5 years, increasing the percentage of the rehires from the announced 25%. And the announcement of Agnipath is only the beginning. Implementation will be a long haul and the government will need to step up to the challenge with the sensitivity and responsiveness. Next article is a president for our time. In the run of time to election, a question: what kind of president does the republic need today? India commands 48% of electoral college vote, but the remaining 52% is divided house. Naveen Patnaik, Orisha's CM, and Rajmohan Reddy, Andhra Pradesh CM, has indicated an open mind on supporting the NDA and met Prime Minister Modi recently. Two parties accounts for 7% of the total electoral college vote, and support of even one of them will ensure a comfortable win for the NDA candidate. The president in our setup does not enjoy executive powers. 42nd Constitution Amendment enacted during the emergency made the advice of the Council of Ministers binding on the presidents. Every prime minister has sought an president of his or her choice. It is easier for a powerful prime minister who command a majority like Narendra Modi and Indira Gandhi to have their way. The president may be a figurehead, but he or she has the power to appoint the PM, to ask the cabinet to reconsider a decision or to delay the decisions by sitting on them, among other things. As the custodian of the Constitution, head of the state, the part of the parliament, commander-in-chief of the armed force, visited to central universities, the president can be a friend, philosopher and guide to the government to ensure the health of the institutions. Even to troubleshoot behind the scenes if required, but this can only be happen if he or she statures the cross-party relationships and consensus-making abilities and have a harmonious relationship with the PM. He is neither a rubber stamp nor should he become a rival power center to the Prime Minister. Next article that we are moving into is related to about a month of pink washing. We need to sensitize politics and policy to LGBTQ plus concerns, not more token gestures. What the article talks about is June recognized a Pride Month as political movement for and by the queer and transgender community. As a conversation around the LGBTQ plus entered the mainstream, the presence of corporate sector escalated. Today, every company worth its salt celebrates Pride with the product launches and lip services. On the top of every discrimination, 2021 saw the most number of registered murders of transgender people across the world. The corporation yield profits up to 50 to 100 billion annually during the Pride Month. Though they claim that to be allies in our bid of a coin liberalization, these corporations also fund politicians who pass legislation that shrinks the spaces for LGBTQ plus people. With the visibility, the community has emerged as a unique consumer base, one that corporations do not shy away from marketing in the name of the support. This concept called pink washing was in the recent decade effectively taken over the movements in the West. However, in 2021 alone, Walmart donated $1 million to politicians who have worked actively to roll back LGBTQ plus protections. Particularly, AT&T also funded LGBTQ plus legislators, coming out with Pride exclusive scrunchies and t-shirts owing to donate part of the profit to the LGBTQ plus funds. OTT platforms like Netflix and Primes have seen a surge in queer to content too this April on the heels of losing subscribers count. The corporations cannot refute that their efforts at inclusions are anything but attempts in maximizing profits and capitalizing on an expanding consumer base. Next article that we are moving into is related to demolition of the house, number 39C A 2A1. The article talks about the house was reduced to rubble on the ground that it was constructed without obtaining necessary sanctions and clearances from the concerned authority. Prophet Muhammad, the whole episode it seems was scripted to send message not only to Jabd but also to his communities that anyone running foul of the state administration, and whether by the way of tweet on social media or by stagging dharnas or by leading protest marches, will meet the same fact. The same day, PMA pasted a notice on the gate of the house which stated that the construction of 25 cross 50 feet was done on the ground first floor without taking permission of the concerned authorities. The question will remains how a notice sent to Javad, who was not the owner of the property, authorized the authorities to demolish the house which belonged to his wife. She was her own independent identity and was thus entitled to the protection of law and procedure prescribed which ought to have been followed before any action taken in relation to her property. For instance, giving due notice to the rightful owner of the property, providing sufficient time to respond to the same, a personal hearing if asked by the notice. Even if there is no response from the notice, a further and final notice informing the notice of the proposed action. These principles of natural justice, which are at the core of the rule of law and democratically elected government, is under an obligation to follow them. UP government, which is now appears to be acting as a judge, jury, executioner, but the government still needs to do a lot of explaining. For instance, it must disclose when the construction of the building commenced, whether any notice was issued at the stage or to owner informing him or her that the construction was unauthorized and need to be stopped. Since the UPA government appears to be believe in demolishing the houses of alleged criminals, even if such punishment is outside the purview of the law, even though offence is yet to be provided in the court of law, why should then houses of all such errant officials be also not demolished? It is nobody's case that those who indulge in violence on June 10 should be let off or not deal with the under laws of land, but they cannot be punished unless proven guilty of a court of law. This situation, the aggrieved person have nowhere else to go but to look towards the higher courts. It is heartening that Supreme Court has taken cognizance of the matter. It is perhaps too late in the race as far as the aggrieved family is concerned, but then better than never. And let us see the next article. The article talks about interstate council, which is an important chapter in polity. Okay, M.K. Stalin wrote to Prime Minister Narendra Modi asking that at least 3 meetings of interstate council should be held every year to strengthen the spirit of cooperative federalism, that the bills of national importance be placed before the council before being tabled in the parliament. Interstate council is a mechanism constituted to support the center state and interstate coordination and cooperation in India. It was established under Article 263 of the Constitution, which empowers the President to constitute such a body if need is felt. In 1988, Sarkaria Commission suggested that councils should exist as a permanent body, and in 1990 it came into existence through a presidential order. Its main functions are inquiring into, advising on disputes between the states, investigating and discussing subjects. Prime Minister is a chairperson of the council. whose members include Chief Minister of all states, union territories with legislative assemblies and administrator of the union territories. Six ministers of cabinet rank in the center's council of ministers nominated by Prime Minister also its members. Following a reconstitution last month, Interstate Council will now have 10 union ministers as a permanent invitees. Standing committee has been reconstituted with the Home Minister Amit Shah as chairman, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and Chief Minister of Maharashtra, UP, Gujarat as some other committee members. Stalin has flagged the lack of regular meetings, saying the council has met only once in last 6 years. That there has been no meeting since July 2016. Next article that talks about the cases against Rahul Gandhi. Just to see that 3 consecutive days this week connection with the money laundering investigation concerning the affairs of National Herald newspaper. Swami has alleged that Gandhi's acquired properties owned by National Herald by buying its erstwhile publishers. Next article is about what now for Assange after extradition order. Assange what is Assange wanted in the US? Assange shot into global prominence in the late 2000s, while WikiLeaks, which was founded in 2006, began publishing classified and confidential government and corporate documents for public consumption. Some of most notable of the leaks were documents from the US government that said the US military had killed hundreds of civilians in the unreported incidents during the war in Afghanistan. The US government wants him in connection in 18 charges for violation of the Espionage Act and Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. It alleges the information was obtained from WikiLeaks illegally and endangered the lives of its officials. In December last year, London High Court ruled in favor of the US government after Joe Biden administration assured it would not hold him at the highest security prison facility, and if convicted, he would serve his sentence in Australia if requested. Okay, next article is about monsoon so far. Heavy rainfall in part of northeast, hardly any elsewhere. Cherrapunji in Meghalaya, among the world's wettest locations, have received an unprecedented rainfall this week. Mao Syndrome in Meghalaya, the world's wettest place, has broken 83-year-old record for June. 24-hour rainfall on Friday. Mao Syndrome, that is 1003.6 millimeter. Okay, this is what the article talks about. Next article related to economy is World Trade Organization strikes global trade deals after rollercoaster talks. 2 highest profile deals under consideration on fisheries on a partial waiver of intellectual property rights of the COVID vaccine. The accord to curb the fishing subsidies is only the second multilateral agreement setting a new global trading rules struck in World Trade Organization 27-year-old history and is far more ambitious than the first designed to cut the red tape. The deal on the partial IP waiver to allow developing countries to cut the red tape. The deal on the partial IP waiver to allow developing countries to produce and export COVID vaccines has divided the World Trade Organization for nearly 2 years, but finally passed. One deal also reached has to maintain a moratorium on e-commerce tariff. Next article is about RBI bats for CBDC regulations of fintechs BNPL. RBI has unveiled the Payment Vision 2025 document, which proposes a host of innovative payment systems and regulation of big techs, fintechs, buy now pay later system, and introduction of central bank digital currency, among others. This is what the newspaper is all about. Next article is about FATF retains Pakistan on grey list, hints at the removal after October visit. The Financial Action Task Force, an international watchdog, Friday said it will keep Pakistan on so-called grey list of countries do not take full measures to combat money laundering and terror financing, but raised hopes but its removal would follow an upcoming visit to the country to determine its progress. The player said an on-site inspection by FATF in Pakistan would be done before October and that a formal announcement on Pakistan's removal would follow. Pakistan to the list in 2018. The grey list is composed of countries with a high risk of money laundering and terror financing, but have formally committed to the working with the task force to manage the changes. Still, being on the Paris-based international watchdog's grey list can scare away investors and creditors, hurting exports, output and consumption. It can also make global banks wary of doing business with the country. Okay. Okay, next article, last article is about Russian journalist puts Nobel medal up for sake over Ukraine. Russian journalist and Nobel Peace Laureate Dmitry Muratov is auctioning his Nobel medal for Ukrainian refugees. Distract that eradication of independent media in this country, where he says fewer and fewer people support Moscow's military campaign. Muratov is the co-founder and long-time editor-in-chief to Novaya Gazette newspaper of critical of Kremlin. Okay, this is what the newspaper is all about. If you like the video, please do share, like, comment and subscribe. Thank you.